I want to get higher education. It's episode 63 of For Our Edification. Thank you so much for joining For Our Edification. I'm Eddie Francis. For Our Edification is a podcast that's all about personal leadership and how you and I can engage in leadership for good. That is great leadership now and great leadership for years to come. For Our Edification is brought to you by Edify Ventures. You don't have anyone leading your marketing and communications efforts? Well, shame on you. No shame on you. Don't put your brand on pause. Ask about Edify's Fractional Chief Marcom Officer Services today by going to eddiefrancis.com. As a matter of fact, if you're looking at the video here, you will notice that I have a hat on. It's Talladega College. I've had the great opportunity to supply the interim chief communication officer services to Talladega, and it has been a great ride. Many thanks to my frat brother, my man, my friend, Dr. Walter Kimbrough, who brought me on board, and also Dr. Kenyatta Schomburger, who was a great partner during my time with Talladega College. Got a few days left, but it has been a great experience, and I wish all the best to the Diga family and definitely to the new president, Dr. Willie L. Todd Jr. Past episodes of For Our Edification are available at eddiefrancis.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And in this episode, we are going to get a new segment. And that new segment is Higher Edification. Want to hear about it? Here you go. The views and opinions expressed on For Our Edification do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the hosts, guests, or any entities with which we are affiliated. Again, I really appreciate you joining me on this episode of For Our Edification. Hey, listen, if you like what you hear, then go to your favorite podcast platform. You can rate the show. Please make sure you follow the show. Also, you can talk to me on social media. Please do. Eddie Francis Unscripted on Facebook. Also, Eddie Francis 06 on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, or Fanbase. Now, I also have a new way for you to communicate with me, and it's on my website, eddiefrancis.com. You can go to a link on the website called The Spot, and we can hook up there. You can give me some feedback about the show, suggest something to me. It is all good, and I hope to see you at The Spot. So, I have this new segment that I am really excited about doing on For Our Edification. One segment that we've been doing, and we haven't done a segment in a while, but one segment is called Right to Bear Alms, W-R-I-T-E, to bear, A-L-M-S, and that is a philanthropy segment that Halima does. And now I am excited to introduce a new segment that's going to pop in and out of the podcast, and it is called Higher Edification. Higher Edification is all about how higher education touches our lives in a way that we are able to build our leadership skills, our personal leadership skills in some way. It somehow contributes to our personal growth and development. You know, I actually have one of the, shall we say, odder stories when it comes to higher education. No, probably not that odd, but I started college basically because it was the next thing to do after high school. My parents were both educators. They were both high school teachers. Both of them had master's degrees. And so going to college was the next thing. And so I did that. I was very fortunate to have been awarded a really healthy scholarship, shall we say, to Loyola University in New Orleans. Go Wolfpack. Ow! And so I get to Loyola. But the thing is that it didn't really go as planned for me. Now, I did graduate from Loyola, but the thing is that I am one of the people who, I fit that joke. The joke that says there are those who graduate magna cum laude. There are those who graduate summa cum laude. And there are those who graduate thank you laude. That was me. I was a thank you laude graduate. And it's because I started on fire. I mean, I had almost a 4.0 my first semester. Second semester, I didn't have quite as high a GPA, but it was, I think, like a 3.6, maybe something like that. And then it just went down from there. And for years, I have asked myself what happened exactly. And what happened with me was that in college, I did not necessarily have a sense of purpose. I was there because basically I was supposed to be there. But supposed to be there doesn't mean that I took my rightful place and I took advantage of the resources that I so richly deserved so that I could live a great quality of life. Supposed to be there was because basically if I didn't go, then I don't know, there would be consequences and repercussions. I had no idea what they were. I was there because I was just there. And what I came to realize is that by not going to college with a sense of purpose, I really made things more difficult on myself than I should have. I think all the time about the fact that I should have graduated top of the class, if not top of, it's not toward the top of my class, 1992. Instead, I graduated kicking, screaming, and scratching to get out of there 1995. Now, of course, years later, in this 30 years later, it doesn't matter. I graduated, I got the degree, I was done. But when I think back to it, if I could talk to my younger self, the first thing that I would tell my younger self about that experience is you are in a great place. This may not be the university where you wanted to be, but you are still in a great place. Take advantage of every opportunity to make your life better. And the things that you don't agree with, yes, say something, raise your voice, right? If you feel the need to get into that student protest, go do it. But you have a great opportunity. You are not paying for this thing. And there are a bunch of people around you who are working 2 and 3 jobs and doing all these other things to get through this school. Just take advantage of the opportunity and enjoy the ride. If I could talk to my old self, that is what I would say. And so I say all of that to say that I missed some of the great opportunities that would have really launched my career in a different way. And my career has been great. I've had so much fun. I've done well in my career, but I think that my career would have looked a lot different. And it would have looked a lot different in a great way, a greater way, I should say. So fast forward years later, about 12 years later, I find my way into higher education for a career. I get my first job in higher education as the director of public relations at Southern University at New Orleans. Go Knights. And when I got to SUNO, it was a job. It was a great opportunity. I was really, really excited about it, but I still didn't quite get it as far as higher education and the gift that it gives people. At that time, it was a great job. I was having fun doing the job. It was stressful a lot of other times, but at the end of the day, I really, really had fun because I just loved the atmosphere of being on a college campus. And then the game changer happened. The first commencement I worked at Southern University at New Orleans, there was a woman who was getting her degree like everyone else. All of these students who were getting their degrees, they're about to go out and change the world. But there was something about her, because when she got her degree, a lot of people in the audience went nuts. And that's because she was in her 70s, if I'm not mistaken. And when I saw the look on her face, how her face just glowed, And I combine that with all of the voices of people who were happy for her, especially at SUNO and HBCU. All of these Black folks in this arena who are just happy for this elder who said it's never too late. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get the job done. But there's this other thing about higher education, and it's one of the things that people never think about. And Ansel Augustine, my frat brother who I spoke to on episode 40, he brought this up, how when he got to Loyola, also a Loyola alum, he talked about the fact that when he got to Loyola, it was the first time he had had a sense of stability in his life. So being in a residence hall and being around these folks who became his friends, his fraternity brothers, and other folks who he had gotten to take their classes, and they were his professors, and he got to become colleagues with some of them. It all started on a college campus where, like he said again, for the first time, he had a sense of stability. We heard the same thing, episode 62, the previous episode, with Carlos Henry. Challenging upbringing, and gets to college by the grace of playing basketball. Now, it didn't work out. He didn't become some all-star basketball player in college, but he did finish. Carlos started at a 2-year college, and then he transferred to Delaware State University, got his degree there, doing very well for himself. But it was that sense of stability, and it was being able to understand that he could achieve on a college level. Changed his life. When I was the director of communications and marketing at Dillard University, we had, obviously at the time I was there, it was late 2019, so only a few months later, COVID. And one of the discussions that we had, because unfortunately, if you remember, or if you knew about this, college campuses had to kick students off campus because the governments were telling us, our state governments were telling us, it's a health risk to keep them on campus. They got to go. And what we heard from the students at Dillard at the time was, I do not want to leave. Now, we thought it was because they just kind of wanted to hang out and have some fun. Of course, there was also the issue of the students who were residential students who they didn't have the funds to travel. But there was another reason that a lot of our students gave us, and that was the safest place for them to be, a college campus. It was where they had stability. It was where they could study. It was where they could get meals. It was where their community was as well. And so these are some of the things that we don't think about when we think about what colleges and universities give us almost on a daily basis and what they do for people. There's just so many stories of successful business people who they met their business partners in college. And then let's take a look at sports. I mean, we can talk about sports, especially football. And yes, I mean, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with college athletics myself, but you cannot deny the positive effect that college athletics has on so many people, especially young Black men who, for the first time in their lives, they are getting this opportunity to move faster into some sort of career than they had before. If it's pro sports, great. But we do know that for a lot of student athletes, if they're not successful going to pro sports, they tend to be successful in other areas. And that is because of the discipline they gather when they are college athletes. And we know it starts in high school for a lot of them, but it develops a little bit more in college. And because of the values and the skills that they develop, the competitiveness, we know that's a big part of it as well. Now, with higher education, I will say this, and I think this is what tends to be a challenge a lot of times for people personally with higher education. That is the perception of the value of higher education. Notwithstanding the situation that we have right now, unfortunately, with government, but even before the shenanigans that we're seeing right now, people were really iffy about. They were really iffy about higher education. They were really, really wondering whether or not it really made any sense. Well, here's part of the issue, and I've talked about this for a long time. Part of the issue is that we have people, especially young people, who will take a look at this YouTuber or whoever who is allegedly making a whole lot of money, and they dropped out of college or they didn't go to college. What people are not telling you is that the media are exposing you. And when I say media, I do mean social media as well. They are exposing you to a lot of exceptions to the rule. Research data still tell us that people who earn their bachelor's degrees, and even an associate degree as well, but people who earn their college degrees can almost double the money that they make than if they had not earned those college degrees. So while you do have the exceptions to the rule who do well without a college degree, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible, please, I'm not naive, but you do have most people who at least can make a great living. And so with that being said, I'm going to say one other thing about why this is so special to me. The other reason that talking about higher education is so special to me is it is in my blood. Years and years ago, my dad told me about my great-grandfather, Medard Hilaire Nelson. And when he talked to me about Papa Medard, he talked about the fact that Papa Medard was someone who was an educator, and he educated freed people in the French Quarter, his house in the French Quarter. He taught people who had been formerly enslaved to read and spoke several languages, just an all around bad dude. And I do remember at some point he did tell me something about my great grandfather having a connection to higher education. Years later, and again, if you're looking at the video, I am showing this on camera right now. Years later, I picked up this book, Footprints of Black Louisiana. And I'm flipping through the book, and I get to page 11. And page 11 is this dashing gentleman, Medard Hilaire Nelson. And I'm going to read something really quickly. Professor Nelson was a strong advocate of educational and ministerial interests. When the state of Louisiana was threatening to move Southern University out of the city of New Orleans, Professor Nelson got involved. He encouraged the Archbishop to invite the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament to establish a Catholic college for blacks in the city. He sat on the board of directors to help establish the first Catholic university in the Western Hemisphere. In September 1915, Xavier University of New Orleans, the first Catholic college for blacks in the United States, was opened. Professor Nelson died on June 9th, 1933. Actually, I'm recording this episode on June 4th. And so, my great-grandfather had something to do with the founding of Xavier University of Louisiana, the formal name of the place. So on Higher Edification, I want to pour into you how education, higher education specifically, impacts our daily lives. We're going to look at personal stories of people whose lives have been changed by higher education. Also, we're going to take a look at innovations that have happened in higher education that impact our daily lives. And then we're going to understand also the general landscape of higher education, how things look, why they look the way they look. Take a peek behind the curtain just so you can understand how the machine runs in a lot of cases. So I can't wait for you to dive into this with me. I can't wait to dive into it. One thing I do want to suggest, though, is that you take a listen to a radio show that I've been doing on WBOK radio here in New Orleans. It's called The Way Forward. And the reason I want you to check it out is I started doing this series on the show, and it's called Advancing Southeast Louisiana. And the Advancing Southeast Louisiana segment is about the role that the colleges and universities in Southeast Louisiana play on our region of the state. And I got the opportunity to interview, I want to say 6, maybe presidents. And so please, when you get an opportunity, go to my YouTube channel, Eddie Francis 06, and you can check out The Way Forward. There is a playlist there, and you can check out the interviews that I got the opportunity to do with a few presidents of colleges and universities. There's still some that didn't quite, I didn't quite get an opportunity to talk to them. So I'm going to still reach out to some more of the presidents of the colleges and universities in the region and see if I can get them. But some of the interviews that I have already, great stuff from these leaders. And so please, when you get an opportunity, go check that out. And also, please continue to check out For Our Edification. Again, please like the podcast, share the podcast, and most definitely let me know what you think, especially if you have any ideas. Okay, so that's it. That's laying out higher edification for you. I am going to talk to you next time. And for the very lovely Dr. Halima Lee Francis, I'm Eddie Francis. Thank you so much for joining me on For Our Edification.